today I'm talking about Spiritism. And today, as we've been doing quite a few Mondays, it's question and answers about Spiritism. And I think this is my sixth episode, which you can uh, ask your question as you want. Type it in the comment section on YouTube, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you have, as well as to my best ability, about Spiritism. And just to review a little, Spiritism was codified by Allan Kardec. It's in the Spirits book. You can see here this on the screen. I have kind of his three main books. He's written five books. This first one is really the codification of Spiritism with 1,019 questions. The Mediums book tells all about mediumship, different types of spirits, different types of mediums, how to spot spirits that are trying to fool you, etc. A lot of good information, and I always recommend this book to people who are asking me about, to communicate with their loved ones, past relatives, etc. And then the other book is an excellent book, is The Gospel According to Spiritism. If you were like me, you probably weren't. You're probably superior than I am, where you read a lot of the parables uh, that was written down in the New Testament. You didn't quite understand them. The Gospel According to Spiritism really enlightens and gives the whole backstory of what Jesus really meant, which is different than a lot of interpretations by Catholic writers and Christian writers. Because Spiritism gives you this whole view of where we are, right? We are in this campus called Earth. You can call it a simulator if you'd like, where we are in these temporary bodies, where we are here to have stimuli thrown at us so we can be taught and tested, and we can grow, and we can rewire our brain to have a more advanced character and personality, meaning we are more selfless, more honorable, charitable, and fraternal versus prideful and selfish, like all of us were in previous lives. Okay, so please ask your questions when you get a chance. I usually start the show if there's with questions I have here that people have asked me, and I go over them. Okay, so one of the questions I get quite a lot is, do I always reincarnate on Earth? And the answer is no. We on Earth think of ourselves as the center of the universe, and a lot of people are now believing there are aliens, which there are, and that there is life out there. But we still think of it like, well, there's two or three groups of aliens, and so on and so forth. But this is what we must remember: we are in just one dimension of the physical world, and then there are multi dimensions in the physical world, and there are multi dimensions in the spirit world. And so the Spiritism and spirits tell us the world is chock full of life. Some we can't see from this physical dimension. There are even other planets in the solar system on another dimension. So, given that, now the second part, given that Jesus is in charge of about 5 planets, I believe, and they range from primitive, which is Earth was a primitive planet, to planet of atonement, which Earth is, where you incarnate in order to pay for your past wrongs, to a planet of regeneration, where things get better. Ignorant spirits are no longer on this planet, to a happy planet and a pure planet. I may have gotten those last few names wrong. I'll have to look that up. But the planets go up in higher and higher levels of vibration, and then when you get to a complete happy or pure planet, then it's just like you are in an amazing era of full love. And as the planets get higher, you live to about 1,000 years. Your childhood takes about less than a year. And when you die, let's say you're 999 years old, I don't know for certain, but then the last year is only when you really start looking older and your body goes. But then by then you're ready to say, yep, I'm going back to the spirit world to finish my task. And the other thing the spirits tell us is that we use a very small portion of our brain. And as we use more and more of our brain, as we go in higher and higher levels of planets and higher vibration, we will be able to commune more with spirits. We will be able to glide instead of walk heavily along the earth. All sorts of wonderful things. Now, given that, do I always reincarnate on Earth? Well, it depends. The spirit world wants what's best of us in our educational plan. So if you're at a school and they think another school has a better class for you and a better environment for you to reach your full potential, they will transfer you to another school. So the same thing with the spirit world. They will transfer you to another planet. Now, what I'm not sure, and I've not read anything about this, is that if Christ has all these different levels of planets, do we tend to go from one level of planet to another level of planet and kind of stay within his hierarchical family? Or do they say, no, you're going to go to this planet, and that's under the leadership of somebody other than our Christ? I would probably say it's a combination of both, most probably. But um, so it should be interesting. So, no, the answer is you don't always reincarnate on Earth. And the other part is that you'll go visit other planets when you're in the spirit world. There was this story and I talk about that in How We Are Guided by Spirits, and that the spirits who were uh, being trained to guide uh, other planets, cultures, they went to this planet and stayed there for quite a while. But they weren't incarnated, but they were just there in spirit. And they watched. Okay, let's see our question here. Does Spiritism has anything to say about promiscuity? So I think it's like what the Greeks said, anything in excess. So hopefully, and I know this is hard for a lot of us, is we don't concentrate too much on one thing. It's either it's alcohol or drinking, or it's having our own carnal pleasure, and so therefore it's not such a, let's say, a bad thing to do is to have multiple partners, as long as you treat each partner honorably. If you have just a few partners but you make their life miserable and you know steal their money or whatever, um, that's bad. But if you are just having fun and you treat people honorably and upfront, you're not lying to them. There are stories about a spirits who, in order like men spirits, in order to sleep with a woman, will lie to them, promise them everything, and then just leave them. Now that is a very dishonorable things way of life, and that person was actually made a woman in his next life, so he could see what it's like on the other side. So the hopefully is just we have moderation in everything. It's not like the worst thing you do. It's your attitude towards it, and if you let that, because it's really the pleasure of that act is more of a primitive pleasure. Not that it's bad or anything like that. So it's just that, do can we restrain ourselves to a certain extent? So it's not something that you're going to probably have to pay for in a life, but something you're gonna have to moderate. And they may put you and you may go and tell them, I want to make sure that I'm not falling into that trap. I want to repair that in my next life. And it's the same thing. So when you pass over and you go to the spirit world, and people ask me, and I talk about that. Well, you don't really eat food, and you don't really have relations. Got to watch my words over on YouTube. And they go, well, those are my two favorite things. And what I say is, just like when you were a kid and you were playing with something and you forgot all about your old toy and your old pleasure, and you've got something new and exciting, that old thing you didn't miss anymore. And I believe that's the same in the spirit world. As you go in the spirit world, that you don't miss the act of eating or relations of that type, and that there's something much more new and exciting. Okay. Um, do spirits have holidays? I don't know why this one didn't. Oh, here it's going to show up. Okay. Do spirits have holidays? Yes, there is holidays, and there's days off. And what they do is they make sure that you take your time off, because you work in the spirit world. Could be bad news for a lot of people. Now, you don't have to work if you don't want, but then you don't get a lot of the extra benefits, like going to concerts building your own house. You don't get very high up in the hierarchy, because if you're just going to lay there and do nothing, you're not contributing and you're not learning. The more you have intellectual curiosity, just the spirit world is just like any company. What does a company want for an employee? Someone who's self-disciplined, has intellectual curiosity, and wants to do things. That's what the spirit world wants us to be. So, of course, now Christmas is a big deal. Now, a lot of people say, well, Christmas is the old Saturnalia, et cetera, et cetera. And the spirit world knows that. But it's celebrated on Earth that date, and they'll do the same thing in the spirit world. And they'll have different meetings and concerts. Christ will make multiple rounds and different levels. Different people make presentations and so on and so forth. So it's a big day. So yes, there are holidays. Okay. I've spoken with. I'm sorry. Let me go back. The other one, Nebula says holidays is, do spiritists have holidays? And I said spirits, didn't I? Spiritists have holidays. Before I answer this question, I have on the screen. Spiritists have holidays like anyone: Christmas, New Year's, etc. There is no separate spiritist holidays that I've ever seen. Not like Allan Kardec's birthday or someone like that. So no. Okay. Here's from Joseph a question. I've spoken with spirits through mediums, and they always give me good feedback. Why is the God of the Bible so against these practices? So, and that's a great question. And this is what Spiritism tells us, is if you read the Old Testament, there were a lot of things in there, like go to this town and kill everybody, but save one person, right? Or something like that. I mean, it was just very cruel, and be cruel to your fellow men. Oh, they're not of our faith, just make them slaves. So it wasn't very nice. But you think about it, is that was kind of the way you had to talk to primitive tribesmen or very uneducated people. And so what the spirits tell us is the prophets, the spirits talk to the prophets according to the culture and technology they had at the time. And then there was a lot of things against homosexuality. Again, they let that go, because imagine if Jesus said that, oh yeah, be kind to everyone's personal preference, that then he would not have made any progress with the people in Palestine at that time a date. He could not be too radical. He could be a certain point in being radical, but he couldn't be too radical. Now, in the 1850s, in the Spirits book, if you read that, they ask, what is the definition of a marriage? And they said marriage is between two spirits. And later on in the book, they go, well, do you always come back male or female? They said, no. Spirits come back whatever they think is going to do the best for them. So even they are not saying in that book, and then of course this is why the Catholic Church burned the book, because they also said that the laws of divorce were a human, a human concept, that you couldn't have a divorce, right? Remember how in the 1850s, all the way another 100 years practically, it was really tough to get a divorce. So these were advanced concepts that the spirits gave us. So I think a lot of this is that the God of the Bible, and it's unfair too, to a certain extent, when you say, because it's almost like there's two different gods, right? There's the God of the Old Testament, and then there's the much nicer God of the New Testament, and then there's the more encompassing, if you read the Spirits book, and it really is we're only told these things. I read this one line from a spirit I thought was great. It says, you cannot constrain the word of God in print, because when it moves. It's like, there wasn't just one winter, summer, and fall. There's always winter, summer, and fall, and always little differences. And the same thing with what we're told about God. And that's why I know you get a lot of pushback from people who are religious saying, no, that's the word of God, the Old New Testament, that's it. and that's a concept hard to break through. And what they say is the words of love and charity is eternal, but a lot of these other things, like the earth was created in 6 days, those were just kind of as good as someone could understand at that point in time. We're going to say, oh, Earth took, I forgot how long, what, 6 billion years to form or something like that. And would they understand that? No, not at all. It'd be nonsense to them. Okay, let's. Where am I? Okay, here. What can I do on Earth to show my appreciation to my spirit guides and spirits looking after me? What I do is I just pray and meditate. And let's say, even before I do my live stream, I say, thank you, my spirit guides. Please help me, answer correctly. But, thank you for helping me with, writing my books, talking to people, help me get the right answers. I appreciate everything you do. And that's it. I think actually the best thing you can do is study and improve yourself, because that's what they want us to do. It's like your child. What can your child do that, like, the most exciting thing they could possibly do for you? Give you a present? Well, yeah, that'd be nice, but really the main thing is to do well in school, make good moral decisions, show themselves to be just a little bit more mature, those type of things. And there, I think that is really how you show your appreciation, is the amount you do for your self improvement. Nothing more that they could want. Okay, and then another question: do you think the natural law of do unto others what would you like done unto you plays its part here? Absolutely. And in fact, there was this great, I don't have it on the screen, um, this kind of a post or whatever, giving the golden rule in all different religions, right? A version of it, not exactly, but the golden rule. And in fact, the Spirit said, if you want to boil down Spiritism to its most basic concept, it's follow the golden rule. Do unto others what you would like others done unto you. It says so much. So, and it is a natural law. It's one of those laws that's really put into our conscience. And when we violate that law, we get stressed, right? When you do something to someone else, like I've done, like I yell at someone, some poor salesperson, right? Because I had a bad day, and then I said, like, afterwards, I go, "Oh, what a jerk I am," and I feel bad about it. That's because it's in my conscience, and I violated my conscience. I let those primitive emotions come out of me, and I was mean to someone, and they certainly did not deserve to have anyone yell at them for when they were doing their job as well as they could. There was a very good account of an near-death experience, an NDE, by this woman, and she was taken into the spirit world. And she said, I've had a habit of, being sharp with people. But then when I went and they were showing me my life and different episodes of my life, not only could I see what I was thinking, but I could see what the other person was thinking. And I felt so bad, because when people did things I didn't like, they thought they were trying to do as good as they could, but they were really hurt that I didn't appreciate what they did, and they were hurt that I was yelling at them, because people want affirmation, they don't want condemnation. And again, so, and she said, now I've changed a lot, because I understand that when people make mistakes in my eyes, they may not be mistakes in their eyes. So then we talk about it. So absolutely, that is the vital. And that whole concept is hard to do, and because our culture is that we want to win, and we want to become wealthy, and we want to succeed, and we want to rise in corporations. Well, to do all those things takes a little bit of cruelty and a domination over others. Not all the time. I've been in companies where, like, the CEO of, usually it's from people who actually started the company. It was a very nice person, but then of course they get replaced by people who aren't so nice. And so it's, to be successful in this world, it's hard to follow the golden rule. And I take myself as an example. When I was younger, I wanted to rise in the corporate ladder. And how do you rise in the corporate ladder? Well, you become like others. You become, you follow orders, you take advantage of your employees, and if they have some idiot idea that your employees should do, you push the Kool-Aid down, right? I worked in this one company, I won't name it, and it was really uh, uh, you know uh, popular at the time, where you've got to fire the bottom 10%. Well, it's like, fire the bottom 10%. Well, then everyone at some point in time, you're going to be the bottom 10%. And because, in 10 years, you might be gone. I mean, I'd have, like, let's say 10 people working for me. And this one person was the bottom of, at the 10% level. But what they did, no one else wanted to do. I was lucky to have that person that was content to do that type of job. And I was in software. And so, I didn't want to do anything. So, but I had to. So I didn't fire them. I just put on probation. I said, look, and I talked to that person. I said, just last through it. Don't worry about it. This is not against you. I just had to follow this corporate culture. I hated myself. Just hated myself. And that's when later on, I was so stressed. I just hated that. I just got myself, I said, no, I give up. I cannot be that cruel to people in order for me to get that big paycheck, because you go high in big corporations, you get good bonuses and good paychecks. I said, no, so to the culture at large, I'm a failure. And I'm just going to go back and just be a software project manager, or something like that. I'm just going to be an individual contributor, and I'll just go with the flow, and I'll just live with less money. And I became much happier, less stress. And in fact, then when I found Spiritism, which even helped me more understand my situation, is that before I had high blood pressure, gone, right? I just, it's amazing when you're in this stressful job, you start taking medication, it just makes you worse. But then once you free yourself of all that anxiety and the stress of doing things that you don't really want to do because you have to follow the lead. This one manager was talking to my boss. He had this great analogy of being a middle manager, because that's what I was. I was never high in big corporation, and that is, you had to stay within the bait ball, right? You had to follow the other fish in the bait ball. You couldn't be too far out. You couldn't have ideas that are too far out. You always had to kind of follow the ideas, no matter how stupid they were, so you could be part of the group. But you had to be kind of a little bit to the boundaries, so you could be recognized, so you could be promoted. But I thought it was a perfect analogy of human behavior in corporations. And that's what they do. And therefore, that's why you see throughout history and in your own place of work and other companies you've seen, where these stupidest ideas are just then like, oh, we've got to do this. This is a campaign. This is a campaign for stupid idea number 3. Oh, that's a great idea. And that's how it happens. And I've seen a lot of them. Okay, and follow up this by Lynn. That is so difficult to do. How do we find the control and time to stop the mouth engaging before brain? Those moments when the next thing is, oh no, why? How do you deal with it? So, and that's a great question. And the answer is, it's a long process. And the answer is to start with your thoughts. Because we do learn, like, as parents tell us that, if you don't want to say, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. So sometimes we find to at least stop our mouth in time, but not our thoughts. But the really thing to do is practice this every day. You're going to fail. I mean, I'm still failing, but it's been, I can't remember how many years, 10 years or so, that I've been working on this, and I still fail, but I fail less often. And think of how many synapses you have in your brain, and think how much you have to rewire yourself from being mad at someone who does something you don't like, or being superior or condescending to someone who you think they should follow your orders because you have money or you have social status and they don't, right? Because if you have money and they don't, that all automatically means you're smarter and better than they are. That's our culture. And so I'm not going to put up with that. You know what? And so it is extremely difficult. So yes, it is so difficult. You're absolutely correct. And it's just over and over. Catch yourself. Like what I try to do is at the end of the day, I think, okay, what did I do? Oh yeah, I did. Okay, try not to do that. Let me give you an example. So I used to go to work. I used to live on Bainbridge Island, and I take the ferry from Bainbridge to Seattle, and I walk up to where I worked. And as I walked to where I worked, there was all these vagrants and bums, I call them, right, laying around, alcoholics, drug addicts, mentally impaired. And I think, oh, these bums, just get rid of them. They just crowd the street. Well, then I started understanding the real world, the world that these people were given here. They made bad decisions. They had catastrophic failures in their decisions. And then I started getting myself to feel sorry for them. And in my mind, I started saying, oh, you poor guy, you've made bad decisions. I hope the best for you. But, you got to start over your next life. But I would think, and then I think, God bless you. And so you just start doing that in your mind. And so when you see people, you start thinking, God bless you in your mind. And then that kind of stops you uh, from blurting out something. But I mean, I still do. I was sitting, I'll tell the story. I was thinking I was doing pretty good one day, and I was sitting in my comfy chair, and then my dog was right next to me. And then my dog just like bark, really loud bark. And I just whack, whack the poor girl on the head. I thought, oh, okay, well, there's another failure. And because I heard this loud noise and I knew it was her, and I just like hit her right away, hopefully not hard. But again, that was a failure. And now I try to control myself. So yes, that's how I deal with it. I just try and reinforce, don't do that, or do this, be kind to people. That doesn't mean you can't, doesn't mean you have to be a pushover. And so there's this great part in one of Andre Luis's book about this woman spirit talking about anger, and how when you're angry, it comes out, it releases all these primitive emotions, and it makes other people upset around you because because they're sensitive to these primitive emotions. So, but sometimes you need to get something done. And she said that at times you need to get something done, you use indignation. I mean, no, I need you to do this. This is important. And what that does is it doesn't release your primitive emotions, but it focuses your will, right? Because that also helps you work on your willpower, because the higher spirits have enormous wills, and they focus that willpower because, after all, right, thought is action in the spirit world. And from someone like Jesus, whose will actually helped create the earth, that just shows you how powerful he is. And so that is what you use. And so you don't have to be pushover. You can use indignation. Don't lose your control to say, nope, you're going to have to do this. We're going to work together, and just learn how to do things through like soft power, which can help me too when I was in project management, because you have a lot of responsibility and no control over different groups. So you just have to learn how to do that. So I hope that answers your question, but it's a good question. And it's not something you're going to fix overnight at all. This is going to take years. But I believe what to do is that it's going to get you better shape for your future when you're in the spirit world. Yeah, you're right. The tendency is to narrow down your understanding and your kindness to your loved ones, right? And that's absolutely, because to your family, that's how tribes, right? Family and tribes, we hate that other tribe, and that's how you survive as a primitive spirit. All these emotions, this is what we have to learn. All these primitive emotions we have did us really well in primitive circumstances. We had to fight to survive. We had to take advantage of those other people, right, in order for us to live. And now we have to kind of rip those out and replace those with higher, right, love, fraternity, charity, instead of selfishness and pride, etc. Now, you can ask the question, why do we have to go through that? Why do we have to start from a primitive spirit and, kill or be killed? And now we have to go through this whole process then to become higher and civilized people. Can't we just start off like nice? And I believe there's a good answer for that. But I've never heard this. But this is my supposition. This is my theory. Is what we've been told is that God and Jesus and other spirits, they want unique personalities. They don't want us to be automatons. If God wanted automatons, they'd make us automatons. We'd all be the same. We'd all be nice people. We'd be externally boring. That the spirit world wants individuals with personality. And so going through this whole process of being primitive and then taking that primitivity out helps more different, periods where people can show and demonstrate uniqueness in their character. And even when we rise in the spirit world and we go past the levels of heaven from the earth and then to the levels above that, and then into the sublime levels, what spirits say, we don't know what it is, but it's got to be great. They say, whatever happens though, you will still retain, you're kind of part of the whole, because a lot of people say that when you die, you just become part of the whole. Well, kind of eventually you do, but not right now. We're still kind of our own individual people. But when you become part of the whole, and what they say, they're not sure, is that you still retain your own unique character and personality. So there's reasons for that. But when you think about, when we talk about spiritism, and as we're talking here, and I love these questions, doesn't it show you how much detail you have what spiritist mediums have given us? There's good reasons. There's good reasons for reincarnation. There's good reasons for karma. Karma isn't there just to, kick you in the what when you've done something wrong. It's karma's there to say, okay, oh, here's something you did. Now, what's a reaction? That could be good in your next life. It could be rewarded in your next life, or it could be that something like, oh, we need to correct that tendency. Just like when you see your child, right? Oh, the child has a tendency to paint on the walls. Well, what are you going to do? You're not going to hurt them. You're going to say, don't paint on the walls. They paint on the walls again. You're going to say, well, I think you have to stand in the corner. Now, when that kid stands in the corner, they'll cry and they'll get mad at you and they'll think you are the worst parent in the world. And why are you punishing them? Which is what we do in our trials, right? It's like we react like that little kid because we think these are horrible. But actually, if you look at it from the 10,000-foot level, these trials are necessary. These are necessary stimuli for us to sometimes, as the spirits say, pain is the great teacher, for us then to say, okay, what am I doing wrong? How do I need to change? And so I don't ever feel this bad again. But it just shows you that, there's reasons for all of this. And the end result is you're going to be in this wonderful area, and you're going to have, and the fact that we need to be trained in this, I call it, either a campus or it's a simulator. Why do we have simulators, let's say, for pilots? In the simulators, do we say, oh, you always want to have a good landing and we'll never make anything wrong happen in the simulator? No. They try to make everything bad that could possibly happen to you in the simulator. So when you're in real life, you are prepared. There is no difference for us being here on Earth than that we go through different experiences. We have to learn that we have unreasonable people attack us, tell us that we're stupid or whatever, that we don't react emotionally and say, okay, I have such power in my mind now, I can just zap you out of existence. But you could just force them to do things. But of course, we are being told we have to respect their free will. And you have to get that engraved in you. So this is like a simulator on Earth where we go through these things, and people are mean to you, people are cruel to you, people betray you, spouses do all sorts of things to you. And you just say, okay, well, what they did to me, I'll never do to them. And that's really one of the big mistakes we all make, and I've made, is when someone does something bad to you, you think, oh, how can I get revenge? And the answer is don't. You can remove yourself from that person, but karma and the whole process of reincarnation uh, will take care of that. In fact, let me just show this. I think this is a good one to show people why you don't have to. Why you don't have to teach someone a lesson, right? Because a lot of us are, oh, we got to teach that person. In fact, again, that's why Jesus said, forgive 70 times 7, because the earth is full of spirits who are still caught in this kind of sad loop where they want to teach someone who did something terrible to them in the past. Now, first I always think like, okay, well, someone did something terrible to you and you want revenge for it. But the reason they did something terrible to you is because before that, you did something like that. But, people don't think that way. So, but the spirit world takes care of all this. In fact, I'm going to release, I think, next week a video talking about corrupt people and corrupt politicians. That you don't have to hate them. They're going to get what they need. So the process is everything in life is recorded, right? Everything, every detail, every thought. Your current life, they look at your previous life, they go, let's plan this out. Now, if you're in one of the levels of heaven, if you're a pretty nice person now, well, you were probably part of the team, meaning you and some superior spirits and mentor spirits, is to plan out your life. Now, again, what they tell us is the mentor spirits are there not to make things more difficult to you, but kind of calm you down, because they say spirits have a tendency to make their trials and tribulations too harsh. That they want to pay back everything right away and pay back it in the most severe manner. And that's just too much for a lot of people. And so they're there and they help you. They help plan your episodes. Now, and again, just to clear this up, it's not complete predetermination, meaning no matter what you choose, things are going to happen, yes or no. No, your episode happens and you have choices within that episode, but it's still pretty tight. It's your choices are what if you're going to learn from it, but there's also choices like, am I going to take that action or not take that action? A good example of that is someone who has murdered someone in a previous life and they are due to be murdered in this life. And good morning from Australia. And so the question is that person who's going to murder the person whose trial is to be murdered? I know I'm using the murder a lot, but that person always going to do it? Because if they were always going to do it, that's just complete predestination. The answer is no. If there's a person who is supposed to be murdered in this life because they did something bad in their previous life, they will be exposed to a person who has the capability of killing them. That person has the choice to do that or not. If they decide not to kill you, then you will be arranged to be put in the vicinity of another person who has the capacity to do that deed. You see how complex this is? It's amazing. So here's another question. The problem is you start analyzing everything you do and it drives you crazy trying to figure out why you do something. Yes, but, and this is where two things come in that I think are very important. First is your conscience. If you make a decision based upon your conscience, it will be the right decision. Now, it may not appear to be the right decision in the short run. Let's say you make a decision to, you could have this job, but at the job, it takes advantage of people, but you'd make a lot of money. But then you say, no, I don't want it, because you know it would give you stress. That's the right decision. Your family may not be as well off, but that was still the right decision. So that is important. Follow your conscience. The second thing is have a sense of humor about it. Because think about when you were a kid. It's like when you were a child, because I remember this. It's like every decision you made was the wrong one. And of course, as an adult, you're looking at that and you're going, you know, another mistake. I hope I wasn't that dumb. Of course, yes, you were. But that wrong decision helped you, right? That wrong decision was instructive. And there was this wonderful near-death experience by this one guy. He went to this review, and he was showing his life, and he was saying, "Oh, every time he made the wrong decision, he goes, oh no, stop! Why did I do that?" And he said, that's not important. And then he do another one. He goes, stop! I need to analyze that. And the other spirits say, no, that's not important. And he said that I finally realized that everything is as important as it is unimportant, which is very true. And if you break it down of what he meant is that in the long run, anything you do is not that important because you're always trending somewhere and you have multiple lives. The most important thing is you're learning. Let me give you an example. Let's say that you were in high school and you failed your chemistry test. That was very important at the time. But you learn that you can't fluff off. You can't go stay up all night before a test and think you're going to do well. And for the long run, you learn something. So that's why the next important thing besides your conscience, right, is to have a sense of humor about your own stupidity. It reminds me when my wife and I went to Venice, and before we took the train from Austria to Venice, we were told, be careful of Italy. This is years and years ago. It's dangerous, and who knows what's going to happen to you. So we went to Venice, and we got on this Vaporetto. It was like a water taxi, and we go down these. And we said, this is the hotel. We go down these canals, little alleyways, right? Water alleyways. And of course, in Italy, the outside looks horrible. And I go, oh my God, he's taking us to kidnap us and kill us. And we go through it, and this is like wooden gate that was just rotten, right? And the guy pulls up to the little dock, and they open the gate, and there's this beautiful hotel there. And we just laugh. But that's just part of being, a bit of an idiot. And it's funny. So you just have to have humor about that. You're going through this. We're not the most mature of spirits, because if we were, we wouldn't be here. And so I think that is kind of, you have to, don't make yourself crazy. Just say, oh, okay, I don't think that was right. And what would I do in the future? That's all you need to do. It's the spirit Joanna de Angelis will say that when you've done something wrong, treat it like an arrow in the quiver. Take the arrow out, shoot it behind you. Don't ever think about it again. Analyze what you did wrong, and don't try not to do it, or try to practice not to do it, but don't dwell on think over and over again of the embarrassment or your own being mad at yourself for being weak or stupid. That's it. All it does is takes up your time and energy and serves no purpose. And in fact, he talks about that. I'm gonna get off on a tangent now about people that will hurt themselves when they do something stupid, because there's some people who do that and they'll want to hurt themselves. And she said, and she's just marvelous. This is, if you look up Devaldo Franco, there's a lot of books by Joanna de Angelis. They're books you got to read carefully. She says that all that does, it doesn't help you any. It makes you feel like you're forgiven for hurting yourself, but it does nothing but get you in this bad habit of doing things that are wrong and thinking that you can give yourself forgiveness by hurting yourself. It's actually completely self-defeating. So don't do that. It serves no purpose. And she's absolutely right, right? It may serve a purpose in your mind, but that's the only place. And all it does is it halts, or it slows down your moral and spiritual progress. Okay, where was I on the other questions? I don't have any other questions right now, so let me carry on for a little bit more. Oh, I was going through, do I always reincarnate on Earth? So the answer is no. Some people will reincarnate, even in the same general geographical area. There's this wonderful book, The Memoirs of Suicide by Yvonne Pereira, by Camilo Branco. Just, oh my God, what a book. And it's about his kind of a autobiography of being a spirit after he committed suicide. And he said he'd always kind of been reincarnated in France and Spain, around that area of Europe. Other people will go from China to America, like from the Indians, the Native Americans, to Europe, to Africa, all over the place. It all depends on how the spirit world thinks that you're going to react to different experiences and what you need to learn. And so, for example, for like these in On the Way to the Light, this book by the Spirit Emmanuel, done by psychograph by Chico Xavier, talks about these proud generals who conquered cities and enslaved thousands in one life, and in the next life they were beggars on the poorest streets in Rome because they'd hurt so many people. And then I've seen accounts where this Roman general enslaved many, and then he was born a slave on a plantation, I think in the Caribbean. And his poor daughter was tortured to death by the cruel slave owner. So he got everything back triple. So it all depends. And so now this guy learned from this, because when the slave owner died and he was brought to this place in the lower zone, and he was kind of surrounded by spirits who were that he did cruel things to, because he was not a nice guy. The general, who was a slave, spirit, he kind of watched what was going on. And when he thought he's had enough and he was ready to change his attitude, the slave owner, that he said, "No, okay, you come with me. Let me help you." And in fact, in the next life, he was this guy's father. So it just shows you how everything comes around. So you never know. Now we're supposed to, we have lots of range of experiences in lives, and some things are not predetermined, predestined episodes and trials because we have to pay for something. It's that we have to experience different things, and one of them is a trial of being rich. At some time, all of us will be rich and powerful. Now, of course, the spirits say that's the hardest trial. And I've had people who are like, yeah, right, I like that, try that trial. But when you think about it, it really is the hardest trial, because what happens when you're rich? Well, in our culture, is everyone kisses up to you, right? Everyone thinks that you're smarter than they are, even though you're not. You may have been more dedicated, you may have been more focused, but it doesn't mean you're more spiritual. It doesn't mean it doesn't actually mean you're smarter. Usually it means you're more focused and that you don't listen to your conscience as much. But so you have all this opportunity to be cruel and mean. Or you were this one lady who was the Queen of Spain. She spent many lives paying back for what she did as the Queen of Spain. And in fact, in one of her most recent lives in the 20th century, in her later life, she had to wear this brace around her hips, right, to repair something. It was just like torture for her. She's a very wonderful woman, excellent woman, the nicest person you could want, helped everybody. But she went through this thing where she'd have to wear this for a couple of days. I forgot exactly how. And we were told by Chico Xavier, the reason she wore that brace is because when she was the Queen of Spain, she would sign documents saying, so-and-so needs to be interrogated by the Spanish Inquisition. And of course, those people were locked up and tortured. And this was her kind of karma coming back to her, where she was constrained in a very horrible, discomforting manner. So these are things that happen. One for myself, I was born with a club foot. Now, I have no memory of it. I only know that because my parents told me. But of course, when I was born, they could fix that, because they put these a bar between your legs, and since your bone was pliable, they get it back to where it should be. And I had no memory. And I always wondered, but then my ankles were always weak. So like I tried ice skating, and I was like, I can't do this. But why did it happen to me? Well, I was told by a medium that I had been cruel to people when I had slaves and I didn't want them to escape. I chopped their feet off, and which not as a horrible things, but now was that the end result? No, no, no. There was other things, because I also believe at one point in time I must have been born horribly deformed, probably my legs, missing feet, or something horribly deformed, because I was told one person is a friend of mine because he took me in when no one else would have me. And why would no one else have me? Because I was useless, right? I was just a mouth to feed. And so I must have gone through uh, some really tough trials to pay back for my cruelty. And the interesting thing is, and I've never had a past life regression, but I've had episodes where people, mediums and so forth, tell me past lives. I had messages from spirits tell me in my past lives I've been corrupt. So I've never been told anything good I've done. So as I said before in other talks, I always think that maybe they say that it's happening to me because I can hold myself up as an example of someone, a rotten person, a completely corrupt, rotten person can improve over multiple lives. So if you see like the most rotten person you hate, politician or whatever, and you just hate that person, hopefully you can think of me that, he's, oh, Brian is probably just like that idiot, but you know, he doesn't torture people now, right? He's not a perfect person, not great, but he's not, actively trying to destroy us. So maybe that's an example I should be. I don't know. We'll just have to find out. When I go back, I say I'll ask him. I haven't been told. Okay, so I'm gonna mark that one as done. And I think is there no other questions, I would just want to go over one thing. Is my latest book, my 15th book, is The Spirit Realm. Spiritism has revealed the reality of our existence. And what I've done is on my other books, well, not all of them. I think the Seven Tenets of Spiritism is more personal and my own example of how Spiritism has helped me. But most other books is I try and quote sections. And I'll do this a little bit in the Spirit Realm, but not as much. Sections from different spirit writings by uh, Kardec, Leon Denis, uh, uh, Yvonne uh, uh, Vieira, Devaldo Franco, etc., Chico Xavier. And I will look at that. I'll talk about them. I'll try to improve my point from writing some spiritists, and Jiva Owen. I'm sorry, I forgot him. And all wonderful mediums that talk to different spirits, many different spirits. And I think that's what sets Spiritism off, is the fact that we're not just channeling one spirit. We're channeling many high spirits sent by either Jesus Christ himself or the ministers to try to give us more information and direct us into the right channel. And so what I'm trying to do is kind of go through what is the spirit realm, what is the physical realm, or what are the different levels in the spirit realm, how do you get from one level to the next, what is the spirit, what are the attributes of the spirit, because being a spirit is amazing. On earth we're not born equal, right? Hopefully we're equal under the law, but we're not born with equal attributes. In the spirit world, you're born equal. It's up to you if you want to be a genius at playing the piano, or you want to just be a nice person and help serve other people. It's where you want to go. But you all have the same capacity. You're all this logical personality. You're this character. Now, I don't want people to think that we're this lifeless AI, artificial intelligence. We are this so far beyond what our comprehension of artificial intelligence. We have emotions, we have feelings. You can tell that because we are human. We are feel the way, and you feel the same way when you pass over, and you're back into this being this logical entity in this logical construct of a spirit realm, where you can either be a spirit and see things kind of through the data, or you can decide to your senses where you see things as they appear to you. Right, a mountain is a mountain, a person is a person. You can still go through and you can still modify them with your thought, but you go along with it. So there's a lot there. And I talk about how you ascend and what our future is. So I think that would be very useful to you. And then lastly, I just wanted to say, if I bring this one up again, is on my my blog, nwspiritism.com, I have this book, Spiritism 101, Third Revelation. You can get it in PDF. Of course, it's also available in Kindle, paperback, and Audible. But you can download it right from my site, free. It's about less than 100 pages, I think 100 pages. And it's also in French for anybody who wants it in French. And so the other ones, and these other books by Allan Kardec, they're all available in PDF. Now you can click on Allan Kardec's picture. It's up in the top right-hand navigation bar, and it'll take you to the FEB bookstore, and you can get these books. You can also get them on Amazon, but they're actually, I think, cheaper on FEB bookstore because it's a spiritist organization and they want you to have the knowledge. But of course, you can get them for free on PDF. So anyway, I hope that it's helped answer people's questions today. And I want to say, God